Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Seman Nazir and welcome to my channel Knowledge Realm. Today we're going to study Lecture 1 of Pakistan Affairs course for CSS examination. This would be Ancient History of Subcontinent. But before starting the lecture, I'd like to clear one thing here, that although I'd be going in accordance with the syllabus given by FPSC for CSS examination, but these lectures are not for CSS aspirants only, but all the students who are studying Pakistan Affairs or History of Pakistan for any reason can definitely find these lectures helpful. So this effort is just for helping students and spreading knowledge. So let's get started. Before starting the history of subcontinent, I'd like to explain a little bit about this region. What is this region, where in the world it is located, and when and why it was called subcontinent. So subcontinent is actually a part of land located in the south of Asian continent. It is the land covered by Pakistan, India and Bangladesh. Before 1947, these three countries were united under British Empire and these three countries were called subcontinent collectively. This area, this part of the world, has always been very important for entire world. Why? There are some reasons. First of all, it is the fertility of its land. The land of subcontinent is very fertile. Secondly, the land is rich in resources. And the weather of this area is also mild and the population is also very high. So these are some of the reasons that make this part of the world important and attractive for other parts of the world. This is the reason that many invaders, many warriors came to this part of the world and tried to conquer this area. For example, Alexander the Great came here, Zahiruddin Babur came here, Mahmud Ghaznavi came here, and Islam was also spread here by Muslim leaders that lasted for more than 1,000 years. So this was a little bit about the importance of subcontinent. Now we would study the history of this area. So here is the entire list of the major civilizations and religion that lived in subcontinent. We will study all these in much detail, but I believe that first we should go through this list to get an idea that what we're going to study in future. So first of all, there was Mehrgarh civilization that lived from 7000 BC to 2600 BC. Then Indus Valley civilization, a very modern civilization, lived in subcontinent. Then Aryans invaded this area. Then very important fact that subcontinent is the birthplace of Buddhism. Then Alexander the Great invaded subcontinent. Then Mauryan Empire was established. Then Gandhara civilization, Kushan Empire, Gupta Empire, rule of Hindus and rule of Muslims. We would study all these in much detail. So we would start with Mehrgarh civilization that started in 7000 BC and ended in 2600 BC. It was located on the plains of Balochistan, a province of a country that is in the southwest of Pakistan. It was located near Bolan Pass, that is west of the Indus River. Right here on the map you can see that this is Indus River, and in the west of Indus River, Mehrgarh civilization flourished. Mehrgarh civilization is an ancient civilization located on the plains of Balochistan in Pakistan. I have told you earlier in the previous slide, and it is forerunner of Indus Valley civilization. So what was the occupation of people of the civilization? They used to practice agriculture and herding, and they used to domesticate animals like sheep, goats and camels. And we all know that this kind of animal also provide their services in agriculture. So people of Mehrgarh civilization domesticated this kind of animal. Mehrgarh is probably the earliest known center of agriculture in South Central Asia. And another very interesting thing to know about these people is that they were very good at crafts and how they used to construct their houses. They used to construct their houses with mud bricks. Another very interesting thing that they constructed granaries. This is what different studies show about this civilization that they constructed granaries because they used to store grains, they used to store food in granaries. Now this is the evidence of the fact that the land of subcontinent is very fertile. People in the past used to grow food, they used to practice agriculture, grow food, consume that food, and then store the rest of the food. So it proves that the land of subcontinent has always been very fertile. Now we would talk about a very interesting and important civilization of subcontinent, that is Indus Valley civilization, also known as Harappan civilization. It started in 3300 BC and ended in 1600 BC. It was discovered in 1921 and 1400 sites have been found from Indus Valley civilization till today. 925 are in India and 475 are in Pakistan. It is one of the oldest civilization of the world, and if we talk about the part of Indus Valley civilization that flourished in Pakistan, it was the Punjab and Sindh province of Pakistan. I have attached a map right here. You can see that this was the area of Pakistan that was covered by Indus Valley civilization. And it is a river civilization. As the name suggests, Indus Valley civilization. It is named after the Indus River that provides water to Pakistan today. We all know that water is the basic necessity of human. So if we study some of the old civilization of history, we would realize that there have been many civilizations that flourished along the rivers. For example, Mesopotamian civilization. It flourished along the Euphrates River, Euphrates and Tigris. Nile Valley civilization, it was also along River Nile. And the Indus Valley civilization that we are studying right now, it also flourished along the Indus River. So it was a river civilization. It was a very modern civilization. I mean, this is very interesting to know, and we would study this in future, and you all will find it very interesting that how modern this was and what made it modern. And two major cities of the civilization are Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. This Harappa and Mohenjo-daro are pinned on the map here. Mohenjo-daro was located in Sindh and Harappa was in Punjab. These are very historical sites today, and people from Pakistan visit these sites, and there are some sites that fascinate people and very interesting places to visit. So let's move and see what do we have more on Indus Valley civilization. The occupation of people of this civilization was agriculture and crafting. They used to grow crops and they used to make crafts. Their irrigation system was very good, and they had a very good canal system that amazes people of 21st century. In the previous slide, I mentioned that Indus Valley civilization is a modern civilization. People of 21st century call it a modern civilization. So what made it modern? It was their architecture actually. They were very good at construction and they had well-planned towns. They built modern sewage system. They built multi-story houses, they built basements and had warehouses for the storage of food. So these were the things that made people of this century call the people of Indus Valley civilization modern. I mean, just imagine that people in 3300 BC were so intelligent, were so genius that they made a modern sewage system. And I'm telling you that their sewage system was underground. They used to make underground sewers which were covered with bitumen so that the waste, the water does not percolate their land and does not pollute their land. Their sewers were covered and lined with bitumen. They made multi-story houses. I mean, this is something that engineers make today in 21st century, multi-story houses. But in 3300 BC, people were genius enough to make multi-story houses. Moreover, they built basements. So these are the things that amaze people today in this world. and that made people call the people of Indus Valley civilization very modern. Now we will talk about the decline of the civilization. The decline occurred around 1700 BC. Actually, no account of history narrate the story of decline very accurately. No one knows what happened to them and why the decline occurred. Some accounts of history say that there was some natural disaster. Some say that there was an invasion of Aryans, but no one knows exactly. So I think that we are not very much interested in decline of the civilization, so we should not be worried about that. I mean, this is enough what we have studied about Indus Valley civilization. Now we would move and see what do we have next. So after Indus Valley civilization, Aryans came to subcontinent. They invaded from Central Asia and southern Russia, and they were nomads. They came through Khyber Pass, and they used to live in tribes and followed a very strict caste system. We all know that in Hinduism, people follow a very strict caste system. There is a pyramid of theirs in which at the top there are Brahmins and at the bottom there are untouchables. So this is the pyramid that Hindu people follow today. Why am I mentioning this here? Because it was the caste system of Aryans that was imitated eventually in Hinduism. Hinduism was actually born from these people. Their beliefs and their traditions were transformed into Hinduism. It was Vedic time and Vedas that Hindu people learn today were written in that time. Hindu philosophy was at its peak, and Sanskrit language that Hindu people learn today was also introduced during the time of Aryans in India. A very interesting episode of history. Now it is the birth of Buddhism. We have studied that in subcontinent, Aryans invaded in 1500 BC. They started living here, they established themselves there, they flourished there, and they brought with themselves a religion that was based on strict caste system. So people of subcontinent followed a very strict caste system. But what happened then that led to the birth of Buddhism? It was the birth of a person named Siddhartha Gautama that started Buddhism. Siddhartha Gautama was the son of a king named Suddhodana from Kosala state. He was the person who introduced Buddhism in this region, who started Buddhism. We would study that what happened to Siddhartha Gautama that led to the birth of Buddhism. So people of subcontinent at the time were following a very strict caste system, a caste system that was brought to subcontinent by Aryans. There was social stratification, there was an upper class, a class that was respected, a middle class and a lower class. A class that was not treated with respect and that was not treated equally. So just think for a while, think for a second that could this type of society thrive in the world? Could this type of society live happily in the world? The answer would be no. Because it is engraved in a human that a human always wants to be treated with respect. Irrespective of the social status, financial status, or any other kind of status, a human would always like to be treated equally and with respect. But there was discrimination in the society at the time. So this was something that started agitating people, that made people increasingly dissatisfied of the system of that society. And this was the thing that agitated Buddha also. Buddha was the name given to Siddhartha Gautama after he introduced Buddhism. So Buddha was also dissatisfied with this kind of life. He started feeling it that there is injustice in the society, there is inequality, there is social stratification. These are some things that should not flourish in a society. So he shunned the luxurious life that he was supposed to live, being the son of a king. He shunned that life and he started preaching equality. So his journey of preaching equality introduced a new religion named Buddhism. And many people that were fed up with the social stratification, that were fed up with their miserable life, started following him. So this became the reason of the birth of Buddhism. This is how Buddhism was born in subcontinent. Thereafter, northern part of the subcontinent accepted Buddhism and it spread till China and South Korea. Right here, I have attached a sculpture of Buddha, some monk, and a symbol of Buddhism. Now we would study the invasions of Alexander the Great in subcontinent. Alexander was actually a Greek king of Macedonian Empire. He invaded subcontinent. He was called Alexander the Great at the time. I mean, not at that time only. People have always called him, people of all times have always called him Alexander the Great. But what made him great? I mean, why he was called the Great? Well, I honestly could not find even a single reason that could justify the title of great. What he used to do was that he used to conquer different areas. He used to kill innocent people and burn the entire cities, owing to the lust of power, owing to the lust of conquest and glory and land and everything. I mean, this is what warriors in the history in ancient times used to do. They all were same, not very different. This is what Genghis Khan did. This is what Alexander the Great did. And all these warriors just used to conquer. I mean, most of them just used to conquer, used to kill innocent people so that they could expand their empire and they could gain land under their name. So this is what Alexander did. So these are some of the parameters of his greatness. These are some of the reasons why he was called great. So in 334 BC, Alexander the Great actually overthrew the empire of Persia. First, he overthrew the empire of Persia, then he invaded subcontinent in 327 BC because he had a desire to rule the entire continent of Asia. He invaded in subcontinent and he gained the support of ruler of Attock named Ambhi. After gaining the support of Ambhi, he fought with Raja Porus and defeated him in the battle of Hydaspes, that is today called River Jhelum. After defeating Raja Porus, Alexander decided to move forward. But what happened? Alexander was actually running out of his resources, and a very formidable enemy was waiting for Alexander in the northern India named Nanda Empire. Nanda Empire was a very strong empire at the time in India, and Alexander was informed by his reporters that the resources of Nanda Empire, the army, the soldiers, the cavalry, the elephants, horses, and everything outnumber Alexander's resources significantly. There was some exaggeration in the reports also because the army itself did not want to fight anymore. A mutiny erupted in the top brass of Alexander's army and he was compelled to go back to home. So this was the reason that Alexander could not fight further and he was compelled to go back to home. In 325 BC, Alexander went back home and died in 323 BC. So this was the episode of invasions of Alexander in subcontinent, a very interesting episode. When I studied it, I was amazed and I enjoyed a lot. So this is how Alexander came to subcontinent and how he went back. After the departure of Alexander the Great, Mauryan Empire was established in subcontinent, a very magnificent, a very vast empire, Mauryan Empire, and it was established by Chandragupta in 321 BC. The advisor of Chandragupta who prepared Chandragupta was Chanakya. A very interesting story about Chanakya, I read that Chanakya was actually a very important person of Nanda Empire, but at some time he was humiliated by the emperors of Nanda Empire. So he vowed to avenge his humiliation and he started preparing Chandragupta so that he could overthrow the Nanda Empire. So Chandragupta overthrew Nanda Empire and he established his own empire named Mauryan Empire in 321 BC. Pataliputra was the capital of the empire. You can see it right here on the map that I have attached here. Here is Pataliputra in northeast of India, and a very magnificent empire. This was a very huge, very magnificent empire. So Mauryan Empire, it was the successor of Nanda Empire. Chandragupta set the foundation for this magnificent empire, and Chandragupta's son Bindusara further expanded the empire and added Dakkan to the Mauryan rule. Bindusara was succeeded by his son very famous Ashoka, who expanded the border of the empire to the farthest. Ashoka was actually a famous warrior of this empire, and I'd like to discuss a little bit about Ashoka. Let us study about the rule of Ashoka. Who was Ashoka? Ashoka was actually a very famous ruler of Mauryan Empire. He was a great conqueror. He expanded the empire to the most of the India. But he was called Ashoka the Cruel by his people. Why he was called the Cruel? Well, there is no new reason. I have explained it earlier that all these warriors were cruel. They used to kill people. They used to kill innocent people just for the sake of land. It was the lust of power, lust of land, and the expansion of their empire that made them kill people. So that's what Ashoka did. He killed people. So this was the reason that people branded him with the name Ashoka the Cruel. But then something happened in his life and he fought a war named Kalinga War. I don't know what happened in that war, but after that war, the heart of Ashoka was changed and he stopped fighting and he stopped conquering by war. He became a disciple of Buddhism and he started preaching equality and he started preaching peace and he started spreading Buddhism in India. Thereafter, he was called Dharma Ashoka. Dharma is the word that means righteousness, and people stopped calling him Ashoka the Cruel, and then he was called Dharma Ashoka. So this was something very interesting about Ashoka, so I thought why not discuss it here. It would be very interesting. So this was all about the Mauryan Empire. Let's study about a very old civilization, that is Gandhara civilization. It is 2600 years old civilization that flourished in North Pakistan and Afghanistan. Peshawar Valley, Mardan, Sawat, Dir, Malakand, Bajor and Taxila, these are all the cities of Pakistan that were once a part of Gandhara civilization. Jalalabad of Afghanistan and the whole southeast belt of Afghanistan was also once a part of Gandhara civilization. The capital of Gandhara civilization was Taxila. The old name of Taxila is Takshashila. The old name of Charsadda is Pushkalavati and the old name of Peshawar is Purushapura. Now I am addressing CSS aspirants here that please memorize the old name of different cities of Pakistan. It would help you out in objective portion of your exam. Now let's discuss about the art of Gandhara civilization. Well, the art of Gandhara civilization is actually very famous. It is worthy of discussion. Gandhara was actually the center of art and knowledge at the time. People used to do painting, pottery, they used to make sculpture, and they used to enjoy these things. The artwork was devoted to the propagation of religious ideals, and people used to make sculptures of Buddha and they used to worship these sculptures. Buddhism saw its second revival during the time of Kanishka, who was a ruler from Kushan Empire, and the sculpture making of Buddha was at its zenith during the rule of Kanishka. The architecture of Gandhara civilization is also very interesting. If you ever visit Museum of Buddhist community, you would find this kind of a structure in the museum. These are called stupas. Now, what these stupas are? Stupas are actually mound-shaped structures made with mud and dirt, and Buddhist community believe that some of the dirt was actually from Buddha's body, Siddhartha Gautama's body. So this is the reason that these stupas are actually very holy and very much revered for Buddhist community, because they believe that these structures have a little part of Buddha's body. Some of the dirt came from Buddha's body. So this is the reason that these structures are holy for Buddhist community. Then they built monasteries which form the religious identity of Gandhara civilization, and this was all about the architecture of Gandhara. Then in 200 AD, Kushan Empire flourished in subcontinent. They occupied some continent. Kushans were nomad and they came from Bactria, Central Asia. Their religion was Buddhist and the greatest ruler of the empire was Kanishka. I've already mentioned the name of Kanishka in previous slide, that he was the king of Kushan Empire that worked for the propagation of Buddhism. Buddhism saw its second revival during the rule of Kanishka. When did Buddhism saw its first revival, first zenith? It was the rule of Ashoka that we studied earlier. So Kanishka worked for the promulgation of Buddhism, and history shows that Kushans were remarkable in trade. So that's all about Kushan Empire. So after Kushans, Gupta Empire was established in subcontinent. It was established in 240 AD and it ended in 480 AD. They were actually invaders and they fought with Kushan's empire. Chandragupta was the person who overthrew the Kushan Empire and set the foundation for Gupta Empire. A very interesting thing about Gupta Empire was that it was not the time of enormous wealth or conquest or expansion, but it was the time of creativity, arts, literature, and enlightenment. They were the people of enlightenment. Samudragupta was the son of Chandragupta and he wanted to conquer and unite all the India. So he did so. He conquered vast land in North and South India also. The rulers practiced rituals that were Hindu, and they were Hindu, but they did not ask their people strictly to follow their religion, but there was religious freedom in subcontinent at the time. But the distinctive feature of Gupta Empire was their creativity and the work that they did for the Enlightenment. A very famous mathematician of the time was Aryabhatta, who worked for mathematics, and this was a distinctive feature of Gupta Empire that I wanted to share here. So that's all about Gupta Empire. Now, what led to the empire's decline? It was the wave of invasions from Central Asia by Huns. that weakened Gupta Empire. The invasions started in 480 AD and the empire perished completely in 550 AD. Huns were actually nomads. They entered from Khyber Pass and they became the reason of weakening of Gupta Empire. And we see that around 550 the empire perished completely. So after that, subcontinent could not see a great magnificent empire till the rule of Muslims, till the arrival of Muhammad bin Qasim. The subcontinent was ruled by independent rulers and separate leaders, but no great empire could be established until the rule of Muslims. So this was all about the ancient history of subcontinent. In the next lecture, we would study the arrival of Muhammad bin Qasim and the arrival of Islam in subcontinent, and that would be very interesting. This is the end of this lecture, and before signing off, I'd like to give an advice to CSS aspirants that for the ancient history of subcontinent, the material that I've shared today with you, this is enough. There is no reason, there is no point for any one of you to go in much detail to delve more and study more. This is enough, and do not waste your time much on ancient history or history portion. If you have time, invest that in current affairs and read current affairs. That would be much beneficial than this. So this is enough, and best of luck for your exam. See you in the next lecture, that is arrival of Muhammad bin Qasim and Islam in subcontinent. Till then, Allah Hafiz and best of luck for your exam.